Hey, friend. Hi, Shire.
Hi, friend.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Well, I am Loni Johnson. I am a multidisciplinary artist from Miami, Florida. Yes, born and raised here. And my work deals with performance and installation, focusing on how Black women occupy and navigate space. So I'm happy to be in conversation with a great, great friend of mine.
Same. Same. Hi, I'm Shire. I am an activist, an artist, a mother. Uh, I am originally from St. Louis, Missouri. I've lived in Miami for a few decades. Um, I I incorporate social issues into my practice, and I primarily work in mixed media, but drawing and painting and the figure and portraiture.
Amazing. So, we are gathered here this lovely afternoon to talk about how we were invited by the amazing curator extraordinaire, Anita Swarma, with the Women's Artist Archive, Miami. And she gave us the opportunity to exhibit our archives in Making Visible. So, just wanted to kind of talk to you about, like, what was that like for you to kind of allow people into your personal archives?
It was difficult to allow people to look at, to engage with, and touch things that are very uh, private to me and very sentimental, and things that I use to inform my practice, to ground myself, and to remember why I create. So it was difficult to relinquish that control and that privacy,
I
but
agree. I agree.
yeah, and we talked about that, and it's because of who Anita is that we was like, okay, for you, I'll make this
Exactly.
exception. Was it like
Exactly.
that for you?
Absolutely. Like, there's a level of trust there that developed in such a short time. I met Anita through you, you know what I mean? And through Marie Vickles. And there was an instant trust because I believe that her intentions are good. Her intentions are to recognize and provide a platform for women artists here in Miami. And I really do believe that she is honest and transparent in that. So that allowed for me to kind of make myself vulnerable and to hand over these sketchbooks. And that entire installation homage that's the first time anybody is seeing that work. Like, I talked to you all about making that work and going through that process of making that work, and never showed anybody that work. So the fact that I, like you said, relinquished that to her and allowed people into viewing that was really special for me. So the trust, it's important for you to trust the curator. Like, if as an artist you don't trust the curator, I think that it's not going to work. You got to trust the curator.
Absolutely. And there needs to be a connection, an unspoken connection that you have. I can tell you about my work, and then can you tell me your response to me talking to you about my work or seeing the work? And are we on the same page in the same book, And it was immediately apparent that Anita is somebody that we can share these items with.
Right.
And even walking into that space and seeing these pieces that you created that I've never seen before.
Right.
You're using materials that I knew that you were interested in, but you really manipulated these materials in a very evolved way.
Thank
And
you.
to see, like, I know you're my girl, I've seen your work. So, but to see what it's evolved into is very different. And I've seen your altars, I've seen your performances, and all the altars are always different. And we talked about that. So walking in and looking at all these items and then kind of visualizing you creating this piece and placing these items and just, responding how you do in the space, in your placement, because I remember asking you, maybe early on, asking you, do you plan out what it's going to look like before?
Nope, I don't. And it was the same way with when I installed the installation at Dimensions Variables. Like it's kind of like this like visceral, intuitive response to these objects when I'm creating these installations. I just kind of go with where I think, or well, more so where I feel they should go. You know what I mean? And that's a really interesting part of the work that I kind of give myself the freedom to kind of just be in that, instead of trying to be strategic and plan and drawing out like, diagrams or because somebody asked me about that. I get that question a lot. Like, is there a planning process that goes into the installations and the altar building? And there isn't. I think that if I became too brainy about it, I think I would stop doing them. I think that they wouldn't. And I think about that a lot with all of the work that I do. Once it becomes like a task, or I feel like I'm being too in my head about it, then I gotta leave that alone. And I think that there was a moment that happened with the objects that are a part of Homage. The reason why I kind of stopped and kind of put them away for a while, because I started that in like 2000, making those objects in like 2018. So, there was a point where I felt like I was being too strategic or too brainy and too in my head with them. So I had to put them away. Like I had to be like, okay, I need to let that rest, because I felt like it was becoming too formulated, too mathematical for me, Yeah.
And what's interesting about that is that's how I operate in my brain. And
right.
That's how I operate in my brain.
Right.
And it's like we always try to pull other things from people we admire and try to, get a break or to kind of deviate from the way that you usually operate. Because I am a planner. I plan things out in my mind. I lay things out on paper. If things don't look the way that I laid them out, I get frustrated and then I have to fix it. And it can be inhibiting, but I'm aware that I do it, so I have to be mindful of when I pull back. So when she asked me for items, I thought about what I wanted to give her, but when I went to gather the items, some things I couldn't remember where I had put them.
Yes.
And so it was like, as I was looking for things, I was coming across things, okay, this should be a part of this, and there is a shirt, a t-shirt that's in the exhibition that was given to me by the aunt of a victim of gun violence. His name was Rakim. And so she gave me the shirt, and then it had other victims of gun violence connected to her family. And so I didn't know that she was going to give me that. And then it was like, you're trusting me with this item. And she told me that I could keep it. So when I came across it, I said, okay, let me trust Anita with this item, and let people see, there's more than what we produce as artists.
There's a process. There's a whole process. And the fact that, friend, you gave her like the book, like if anybody knows you like, I know the book. And the fact that when I walked in there and I saw the book on the table, I was like, Because, you know, you are a planner. You are someone that is very, how you say, type A, and very like, there has to be a beginning, middle, and end for you. And that book, that particular book, the fact that you, again, had so much trust in Anita, even the t-shirt, you know, it speaks volumes. Yeah, because it's literally, and it's the same for me too. And I was very mindful of which sketchbooks that I, you know, gave to her to exhibit, because it's literally like you're allowing people to walk right into your brain. Like it's like right into your brain, right into your spirit, like like, you know.
I ain't with that. I ain't with that. I typically ain't with that. Get out of my brain. You don't need to be in here. You will see what I produce.
Right.
And that book, the book, that is the first book that I used to write down information that I was collecting. And I was collecting so much information, I had to keep a book. And I remember, like, I was telling you that even recently, I was like, well, where's my book? Oh, I gave it to Anita. I need the book. So, you know, I started writing in that book in 2016, you know, when I started this large body of work. So everything that I was feeling was there. You know, I was planning out things that I wanted to say, you know, documenting things that were said to me, you know, just gathering all this material there, and to let people go through it. You know, I hope that people recognize all of the other things involved with art making, and doing this type of work is not like, you know, one layer where you just produce the work and that's it. There's so many things that inform the work.
So many steps, so many, you know, and you're right to say that, because people need to realize that it's just not, and I think even with just art in general, like, you know, research, conversations, listening, all of these things are a part of your or it should be. Let me say that, because, you know,
I know.
It should be a part of your practice. It's not just about the product. It should be about the process of how you get to these things that the world sees. And I think what Anita is doing with WAAM is so important, especially for women artists. Folks need to see that there's a process that we go through to get to these objects or whatever it is, these performances or these videos. Like, there's a whole journey that we go through for everything that we do artistically. You know what I mean? And I think that that's, once I walked into the space after she had installed everything, and it's also like for you as an artist to see kind of like your process and your progress, right? Like all laid out, like me looking at all of those sketchbooks and seeing the sketches of the pods and like not really understanding what those things were for me at one point, and then finally realizing that this is what these things are. And then also just like the writing about these, the objects, the gold, the beads, the all the Black girlness that I incorporate in the work being written and thought about, and the sketchbooks, and now seeing it all kind of connect the dots. It's incredible. It
really is. It's incredible. And to see that in somebody that you already know as an artist, you know, to see like these different things, like, okay, I see you. And then work that I hadn't seen of yours, you know, I'd seen your sketchbooks, you know, we would chill at your house and be working in sketchbooks.
Right.
You know.
And what's so crazy, there are moments in all of those sketchbooks where there's glimmers of you, or a quote that you said, or even like a drawing that we worked on together. Like it's all these like wonderful like little moments. And then us, and it was crazy because this exhibit came out of like, it came really quickly, you know what I mean? And it wasn't something that we intentionally planned to say, hey, we want to show together, but it was just kind of like organic fusion that happened. And I don't know. That's
how it should be. Yes. I think that, you know, there are situations that artists are put in where they're kind of quote unquote forced to collaborate. And I think that that could either go really well or really bad. And, you know, I only want to share my craft with people that I connect with artistically,
Come on.
in an ideal situation, you
Mhm.
know, because just our work being in that space together, people are having an entire experience in that space. And you know, these me seeing the items after, gosh, it had been like 3 or 4 months since I gave her the items, and I kind of had forgotten, you know, what I gave her. And to see them just carefully placed, you know, in this space.
And with such care,
Yes. There's
with
so much
such care, with
Mhm.
such care and intention, and I'm
Mhm.
gonna say it, love. Like you can, it's such care, you know. And
Mhm.
again, as an artist, to work with a curator that handles your work in that way,
Mhm.
you don't find that every day. You don't.
Mhm.
You don't find that every day. And you know, it's important for me, and I know you would probably say the same, to have that kind of rapport and connection with someone that is handling your work, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And then to see, you know, the connections to these objects evolve even more, you know, since the exhibition opened. You know, in one of the items is the obituary of our dear friend James Reed the third. And so when I walked in there and saw it, I immediately thought about, you know, being in Snowmass in Colorado for 5 weeks, and during week 2, his mother reached out to me, and I hadn't spoken to her in nearly 30 years, since the late 90s. And so, you know, of all moments for her to reach out to me, she reached out to me when I was there, you know, immersed in my practice, and that experience formed, you know, what I was doing there. And then to come back and then be in the space with, you know, people who I care about, and to share, here's what happened, you
Yes.
know, like this isn't the end. Like
Mm-hmm.
these pieces have meaning, and the meaning is ongoing.
Yeah.
And,
And the work doesn't
you
stop.
know,
You know,
the work
the
doesn't
work
stop.
doesn't stop.
It's ongoing work. And you know, people people have asked both of us, okay, how do I do the work that you do? How do I enter into this realm? And it's like there's no one answer. And you know, me being the shady person that I am, I'm just like, okay, if it doesn't come naturally to you, you should not
Then it
enter
ain't for
into
you.
that realm.
Yep.
It ain't
Yep.
for you. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That is okay, because this type of work, you know, there's the physical labor. We talk about the labor involved with creating the work, and that's part of my practice too, like being intentional about doing the labor. And
Yes.
then there's the physical labor and the emotional labor that doesn't stop,
Nope.
you know, because you are interacting with other people. You know, when you perform, there
Mm-hmm.
are people in that space, and
Mm-hmm.
you're engaging in that space.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I've seen you after a performance just be, you know,
Yeah.
completely wiped
And then
out.
that's when everybody want to ask you 1,000,001 questions right after a performance. Like, I'm like, whoa, no. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know if you noticed, like I go off, like
Yeah.
I'll disappear for a while, because it's
Yeah.
like, you know, I have to almost bring myself back.
Mhm.
But it's interesting. Yeah, it's, people don't realize that this type of work, first of all, ain't for everybody. Let's keep it a bean. Let's keep it a bean, right?
Yeah.
It ain't for everybody.
It ain't for
Um,
everybody.
and that might sound crass. However, you know,
That's real. It's real.
that's real.
Mhm.
You know, this type of work, because of the physical and emotional labor, not everyone is available to make themselves available for that. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. And some people shouldn't.
No.
Some people just shouldn't. And because it's something that people always say to me, is, you know, why do you do this work? You don't have to do this work. You could paint landscapes if you want. Landscapes are great, but you know, I don't want to paint landscapes. But my response to, you know, you could be doing something else is no, I couldn't. This is what I'm supposed to do. And I learned a long time ago, I have to respond to my intuition and let
Yep.
myself be the
Yep.
guide. So, you know, that's why I feel like, you know, certain people are meant to do this work. And then some people, maybe you should just witness this work. You know, you don't have to create, just witness it and respond to it. And maybe your action in this realm is something different.
Right.
And that's okay.
That's
you know?
okay.
Yeah.
That is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like, you know, first of all, we need more curators like Anita. Let's put that out. And I think that it's important, again, for artists to allow themselves the vulnerability to share their archives. I was a little hesitant in the beginning, especially since, you know, sketchbooks are such a personal, it's like the gateway, right? It's like right into how you think and feel, for me. But I think that it's important for, like you said earlier, people to see everything that goes into why we do and why we make what we make, right?
And then think about, we were just talking about this earlier, you know, culturally, what is encouraged, you know, what are Black women encouraged to do? What are you encouraged to pursue? And the Black men, you're encouraged to pursue certain things, and then that you have to do that labor too,
right?
You know, you're questioning, is this person right? Am I doing the right thing?
Right.
And then you still have to pursue that thing. And you know, we always talk, you know, because we've known each other since we were teenagers, we've talked about that path and how early on we surrounded ourselves with ourselves, you know, and watching, you know, the artists that we know in other disciplines evolve and grow, and we're doing that together. It's been the support that you couldn't get elsewhere. And you know, when you and I talk to young folk, we tell them, you got to find your squad, you got to find your like-minded people, the people you trust, and stick together, because you have seen my lows and my high highs. So it's like that there's trust there. And then, you know, still pursuing our craft. And then, you know, I thought about all the times when I was like, yeah, well, maybe, I don't know, this art thing. But, you know, the other Chire is like, girl, you know, you can't do nothing else but this. It's like, well, I don't know why you trying to play with us over here. Why you trying to play with us? Just do what you meant to do. You know, it's the journey that's important. It molds you as an artist. You need that journey. And you need that growth. Because you know, I'm definitely not the artist I was 20 years ago.
And thank God.
Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Fuck it all.
Right. But I mean, dude, if you know, it's funny because I think about in high school, my mom, she said something to me that it stuck with me. She was like, why you always making these sad drawings of these sad people? She was like, why? I mean, why everybody so sad? But little did she know, that's what I felt inside. I was sad on the inside. So I was like, these drawings gonna be sad too.
Yeah, like, lady, that's me. That's me right there. That's me.
You know, and I couldn't, you know, art being my language, the way I speak when I can't speak here, that was my way to kind of put into visual language how I was feeling,
Mm-hmm.
And I say all that to say is, I'm glad I'm not that sad. That sad no more.
The little sad faces.
Right? Can you imagine if I was still making them little sad drawings?
Oh, girl, I'd be like, oh, girl, you gotta stop, girl. You gotta stop. Listen.
But I say all of that to say, just to, piggyback off of what you said about it's a journey, right?
Yeah.
And you as an artist, your work should not look the same as it did a year ago. Mm-hmm. I think. Mm-hmm. Even if you're dealing with the same objects, like, dude, you messing with my brain, because you know how I feel about that drawing.
I'm so tired. Listen, I was trying to.
It does, like, these new drawings just something to my inside.
You like the new stuff, the new
stuff. They do something to me. And those, even though you're doing portraiture as you always have done, it's just the approach just in the past few months has just been incredible. So again, it's a part of the journey. We should be thriving for our work to change and grow and shift and mold and support and hold each other in that. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Listen, when in 2016, when I did the first portrait of King, I cried the entire time, and you can see it in the drawing. And my A-type personality is like, girl, you got to redo that drawing. But I don't, because I tell people that
was the beginning.
Yes, that was the beginning. That's what's in the work, how I was feeling.
Yeah.
And it's okay to put that.
Yeah, that has to let that sit there. Let that sit there, because and again, if we talk about archives, like that is the marker of the beginning of this for you as an artist. Like that's when the works really started to make sense. You know what I mean? Like that was the point of bling, this is what I need to do. And I know it's probably crazy for you to even look at that drawing or those drawings from 2016 and look at the drawings that you're doing now. It's kind of like, I know for me, I'm like, whoa, wow.
Go panic. Yeah. And it's I'm glad I've allowed myself to do that and to evolve and understanding a healthier way to navigate this content, and there were moments where I was just like, look, I cannot keep doing this, because every story that I tell, I carry with me forever.
Absolutely.
And the weight, I was just like, this is really heavy, and I kind of wanted to pivot away from that specific imagery for a little bit and do something very different, which is why I was like, I'm gonna do a mural. Remember, I was like, oh girl, I'm gonna do a mural.
Okay, listen, let's talk about that for a minute. I remember that night clearly when you was like, yeah, I want to do a mural. Me being the good friend, I was like, okay, girl, well, what you want to do the mural on? And where you want to do that? I don't know, but I want to do a mural because I feel like, we need to memorialize these victims. And I said, yeah, girl, you're right. Lo and behold, I know I didn't know it was going to be a block. Almost
a block. Yes.
A block. And like, yeah.
And that
who knew?
I'm so good for that, being like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. Well, how you gonna do that? I don't know. I'm just gonna do it.
I'm gonna figure it out.
Just gonna do it.
And so black. That's so black, lady. You know me. I always talk about that. I want to do this. How you gonna do it? I'll figure it out. That's exactly what you said. I'll figure it out. I was like, well, girl, I'm here. Let me know when I need to get my brush and I'm there. And I was.
Yeah. You said, I'm ready.
Yeah.
What we doing? Yes. Yeah. And even that, doing that with my friends, knowing that the loss of a friend is something that happened to us when we were teenagers, and it's something that stays with us.
Yeah.
You know,
and you said something, so I'm sorry to cut you off. You said something at the closing that I did not realize. We never talked about it. We never talked about, I mean, through Voices United, thank goodness for Katie Christie and creating Voices United, because James was a part of Voices United. And there was a point where we did, the show was dedicated to him. And we were able to have a conversation through that. But I think as our circle of friends, like we never really, it was like the elephant in the room. Like we never really talked about it. We never really talked about it. Like we would talk about moments with him, of course, and like, you know, having memories with him, but we never thought about how we lost our friend and how we lost him, you know?
And 16, 17. And well, let me speak for me. I didn't have access to the tools that I needed to be able to process that type of loss, that type of grief, none of that. And, you know, things have come full circle because now I have to be present in that process for teenagers and for adults. So it's like, whew, you know, maybe, you know, our connection to the lost one is different, but I can tell you how I felt. I can tell you, you know, what I think about every day when I create. I can tell you, I didn't say his name for like 10 years. You know,
now let me ask you this, Fran, and I don't know if I've ever asked you this before.
No, don't ask me.
Do you think you would have been able to do this type of work had you not lost someone? Like, had we not lost a close friend in this way? Do you think that you would have been able to still do this kind of work?
The work would have been different. It would have been different. I think I've always tried to tell people stories. I've always focused on faces and figures and portraits.
Same.
Because I just wanted to connect to that person and depict that person. Because people are beautiful. They're annoying, but they're beautiful. So I think the path might have meandered a little differently, because that experience was always with me, and I just was always processing. So you know what, my work probably would have been different. Real talk, it probably would have been different. I mean, you know, I've lost 2 cousins, but that relationship was different, and you know, I was an adult when I lost my cousins. So, you know what? The work probably would have been different, real talk.
But I feel like, I don't know, sis, like, I feel like ain't no coincidences. Like, we talk about this all the time, and it's like, when your path is what it's supposed to be, like, like you said, you probably would have taken maybe a little longer route to get back to this point. But I think the death of King Carter still brought you to this work.
And you know what? I know you feel the same way. Because you became a parent before me. When I became a parent,
listen,
shit changed instantly. And as it should. Yeah. And I tell people, you know, when my firstborn came into this world, I heard him cry after the difficulties. You were there. When I heard him cry after the difficulties bringing him into this world, I knew that there was nothing I wouldn't do for this little person. So there was a shift, and then everything was urgent now. Urgency. What about now? What am I going to do about this? What about this? How am I going to, you know, I'm going to have to tell my child, okay, this is what mommy did in the world, you know, and I want to be able to be proud to tell this child, oh, mommy did this and mommy did that. So you go do 10 times that. So, you know, Cypher was the same age as King when King died. And every time I saw King on TV, I saw Cypher. I saw him. And, you know, as artists, we always like, okay, what can I do? What can I do?
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, the response, the answer that came to me was, you do what you do best. You create. And I think that
better get that pencil and that paper.
yes, you see the materials, get the materials. Do something about what's going on in the community. What's wrong with you? So
yeah,
that's what it was like. That's what it was like, you know. And I think it's a duty. It's a duty. It's a responsibility. We're telling stories, we're depicting people, we're engaging people in spaces, you know, because every performance that I've been to of yours got me in my feelings, and it fucking changed me. And then I remember being upset, like, oh, I can't let her do this to me no more. But I always go back, you know, and every experience is different. Girl, listen, I told you, when you did your performance at the unveiling of the mural, I was really thankful that I didn't have to engage with you the whole time. Like, I could focus on saying these names and not have to look at this lady, you know, bringing me out of just my body.
And I intentionally left you alone. I'll tell you that.
Thank you, girl. Thank you. I was like, I'm not going to be able to get through this if, you know, I'm engaging with you, because I know what it does to me.
That day was special, man.
It was a special day. And I, you know, I'm really thankful that we shared that.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, that was a mark on our artistic timeline.
Yep.
And I'm still hearing about people's experiences that day. It was a lot happening that day. And, you know, we were able to do that safely during a fucking pandemic.
Yep.
And, you know, there wasn't like, let us tell you what this is about. You know, we weren't in a gallery. We weren't in, you know, some enclosed space. You know, this is for everybody to engage with however they're comfortable. Yep. And it was just amazing. Like I told you before, it was amazing for me to have the perspective that I had. Like, I'm looking out at the people, and then, because I usually am looking inwards at you, you know, and to see, you know, everyone transfixed in a space and connecting with you as you travel through up and, you know, damn near up and down the street. You know, there was a really large space. And, you know, people having a greater appreciation for you as an artist and performance art, and what performance art can do, you know, because people ain't know. I knew, but you know, other people ain't know. Other people ain't know, you know.
Yeah, you know, I talk about this all the time. Like, who knew? Like, had you asked me, you know, in high school or even in undergrad, like, if performance and installation would be something that I would be interested in, I would be like, no. What is that? I do these arts. I draw these pictures. I paint with these brushes. You might get me to make a little sculpture here and there, but like, that was never something that was in my, you know, front view, you know. And but I feel like sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, when you're put in a place where you're supposed to, this is what you're supposed to do. You know, how else can you tell these stories? How else can you connect with people? You know, and that's it. You know, that day.
That day was a lot. It was a lot. You know, I think that's what I should do.
Yes,
that's what I should be doing.
Maybe not cause car accidents, but you know.
Yeah, because you did cause a car accident. You know, and I told you, you know, I worked on that mural for 6 months. Right next to 95. Never heard a car accident.
Nope.
Never.
No.
And that day, you know, you were shifting around the ether and calling upon the ancestors. And there was a hedge of protection around all of us.
Crazy. Nobody moved. Nobody left. Nobody moved. everybody was like, keep going. We good down here. Forget what they got going on now up there.
Right, right. Because I stopped. And then somebody was like, keep going. I said, all right.
Okay.
I'm going.
I picked up that sage and I was like, okay. Well, you're just gonna keep this going. But this, yeah, I was very grateful to be able to do that activation there. Yeah, it really was. And again, this organic kind of like, I think it came up on one of our many phone calls. Like, you should do a performance for the unveiling.
I didn't even ask you. I was just like, yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, that's how it went. Yeah, because you bully me a lot. I'm tired of this. But it came up like that. It was very organic, and I was just like, okay. Yep.
And then A Brain was like, okay, so what's she gonna do? Well, when you gonna do it?
My God.
Well, what you gonna wear? Well, what we gonna do? And you was like,
I told you to shut up.
You know what?
I was like, girl, shut up. Don't ask me no questions.
Just show up. I was
like, what time we gotta be there? I was like, make it 3:33, like I told you. And I got you. That's it. See, if this lady asked me one more time what I'm gonna wear.
I said, well, do you have all your material?
Yeah.
Do you need some? Yeah.
No.
You took care of it.
Took care of it. She's like, that's a long time in silence to read all these names. I was like, trust me. Trust. And that's a beautiful thing too, when you trust the person that you are collaborating with. That word.
Your favorite. You love that word.
But there has to be a level of trust within that collaboration. Because if it's not, it ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna work. But yeah, that was a really special day. And like I said, it just organically happened. We've talked about working together, and and for whatever reason, the universe is like, no, not yet. Not yet. Not yet. Now. So this is, and I want to go back to what you said about this idea of for our children, right? And them seeing what mommy is doing out in the world. It's really important for me too. And I think that the archives is a great way to leave that legacy too, that carbon footprint, right? Like the fact that, they're going to be able to just, I joke around all the time. I'm just like, I'm going to leave all my books and everything, all my books and sketchbooks to y'all. And they just like, okay. So they'll have access to that stuff, but like, for them to share that and to share that with other people, and because we're going to get to a point where we're already there, this digital age, right? Where everything is going to be accessible just by, so the fact that they can be like, this is what my mom did. Look.
Wait, but what's the sound? What's the sound?
I love that. Like I can't wait for, to be my fabulous, 80 years old, sitting and watching my children talk about like how fabulous their mom was, how fabulous and dope their mom and their mom's friends were, their uncles and aunties,
Yes.
I can't wait for that.
And then, Nair is what, 17 now? How old is
18, bro. Get it right. 18.
Hey, Lord, that's a grown ass man. And watching him grow up, and he was surrounded by artists and creatives, and seeing it blossom in him, because that baby is an artist. That's a grown ass man, but he's an artist. And he's of you. So this is somebody that you molded and you're putting out into the world to create, and encouraging him to do that. And us understanding the importance of that. Just providing an environment where they can create, where they have the freedom to express themselves. And if you want to pursue it long term, that's okay.
That's okay.
And providing something different than what we had. And just the importance of that.
You need that.
You need it. You need it. you
Yeah.
know. It's crazy, and that's another archive too. Like, you know, me going through my memories of this child and
Mm.
watching him create and seeing immediately that this child was artistically
Yeah.
inclined. And I was
Yeah.
like, ooh,
He got
girl.
the mark of the beast.
We tried to give him
Yeah.
anatomy books and law books.
No,
He ain't want that.
he ain't want
He ain't
it.
want that. He ain't want
He drew on them.
it.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, understanding how important that is, you know, and that's what pushes me. That's what drives me. And I
Yep.
think, you know, if you don't have a genuine passion for this type of work, you're not gonna be able to do it. You're not gonna be
It's
able
like
to
for
do
what?
it.
Like why?
Yeah. It
For what?
and I'm really thankful that uh that this type of work is being paid attention to, because the type of work that we saw, you know, 20 some odd years ago is very different. And just the amount of Black artists and artists of color in spaces. You know,
Yep.
there wasn't a lot of us. It was usually only one of us. It's only one of me. And you know, now people are understanding that we are a multifaceted people, always been, and we can engage in many different ways. And this type of work is important. Uh, it's not always about marketability, profitability. Um, it's about the message and the impact and the people that you touch and
Yep.
how it changes you.
Yeah.
And you know, because we're like, we've been doing this work for so long.
Yeah.
Now everybody's like, ooh,
Welcome
that's
to
what
the
you're
party,
doing?
folks.
Welcome to the party. You know,
Right.
we've been talking about these issues for decades. It's just
Mhm.
now certain people are paying attention.
Welcome to the
And
party.
welcome to the party. And I had to really take advantage of, you know, all the things that were happening last year, you know, the murder of George Floyd, you know,
Mhm.
we locked down in the house and shit. I ain't
Right.
got no job.
Right.
So, but I'm still an artist.
Right.
So what am I going to do with this moment? I still have to create. I still have to advocate. And, you know, I just had to do it.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was the only time I could have worked on a mural for 6 months, but
Right.
it happened when it needed to happen. And everyone that came out there to help, to talk, to remember, they were changed when they left, you know. And
Yeah, no, it's something wrong with you. If you walked out there and worked on that mural and you walked out the same way, I think, you know, we need to have you talk to somebody, because ain't no way.
Mhm.
Ain't no way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just glad. I'm glad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad to be able to talk about this work with somebody who already know what it is,
Yeah.
and somebody who understands, and you know, somebody that I like a little bit. A little bit.
A little bit. Yeah.
You know.
She all right.
You all right.
And also for me, I feel like to be able to talk about this work and not feel like you have to defend and or explain.
Right.
That's another thing that I appreciated about Anita as a curator.
Yeah.
There wasn't a moment that I felt like I had to explain or convince or defend my work to her. Never.
She got it.
She got it. You know, and if there was a moment, which there wasn't, but I feel like if there was a moment where she didn't get it, there would be an space for an honest and transparent dialogue. If there was a moment where she didn't get it, like and again, I wouldn't feel like I had to defend the work or convince her. It would be us having a conversation about the work, you know. Even when she did, even when she would ask me about, you know, certain elements of the objects, you know, it was because I know that she was inquisitive and that she wanted to know. You know what I mean? Like it was, she honestly wanted to know because she was engaged by the work. to know more. You know what I mean? It's really
And
special.
she believes in it. She believes in it. She talked about the work better than sometimes I was like, okay, Anita. Yes.
The way she wrote about that work, I was just like, and I think I said it to you, like I had not felt that seen as an artist in a very long time.
Yes.
After reading the write-up about the exhibit that she did for this. And it just, I was like, wow, like to have somebody get your work that way and be able to articulate it back out, like it was like, yo, we didn't even have a conversation about it. Like you got all of this from just observing and, you know, responding to my work. You know, that's everybody ain't got that.
Everybody ain't got that. She took the time to look at it and to connect with it instead of just being like, oh, what's this about? Tell me about this. You know, she decided to do the work.
Yep.
She
did the work. So even the questions that she asked me about the work were from her spending time with the work instead of being like, well, just tell me what this is about. You know, the questions came from her, and you can tell when somebody done spent some time with your work and sat with it, because she, you know, she type A like you, so she was like, boop, 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 you know, and just had me again this idea of collecting and creating archives for artists. It has me looking at my work differently. You know what I mean, and thinking about it differently. Like, how does it, you know, thinking a little deeper about how does it exist in the world, and how people, you know, how people receive it. Like it's I'm really starting to think about the work differently from this exhibit. You know,
how are people responding to it?
Yeah.
Like, what are they saying?
Right. Well, I think that, and I'm intentional in this, like the fact that people like Vivi and, you know, even Vu and Noelle being able to connect with the specific objects like the hair beads, and like, you know, knowing where those things came from, and them sharing their personal stories with these objects. You know what I mean? Like it's really, it's like, I'm doing it right.
Right. It's confirmation.
Right. It's confirmation. There we go. Yes. You know, because it is a part of the work for me, is also being able to allow the viewer to activate this kind of historic or, you know, like ancestral memory within themselves. Absolutely. By looking at these objects. You know what I mean? So, but Fran, you know, we can talk for hours, so I think we should wrap it up. Yes. So, I think Anita, I think Danny, I think Dimensions Variable, what they got going on over there is very special. I feel like I'm gonna speak it out into the ether that we're gonna work with them again. I'm gonna put that out. And it's important for these conversations. Artists need to be talking to artists. So this is great that these types of things are happening. You know.
So. I'm glad it's happening. I'm glad, you know, women are involved and guiding where things should go and making the decisions. I'm really, really thankful. It's been great to see just the evolution of, you know, the art scene, you know, since we were young artists, you know, and being part of that evolution is dope. Yeah. I'm here for it. Thank you, Anita. I love you long time.
Yes. Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Danny.
Thank you, DV.
Yes.
Thank you, Danny.